Today we're going to create an electronic signature session with Authentisign. We have two options to do this. We can do a signing session from an Authentisign link here on the menu bar, or we can do it from a transaction that we've already created. In this case, I'm going to choose my desktop option, and I'm going to go to my most recently accessed transactions, and I'm going to choose a transaction that I just created for a seller. We're going to prepare a listing agreement for signature. So when I open that contract or that transaction, I go into the transaction overview. And this is where you do a lot of your work in Instanet. From here you can access your contacts, your documents, and all your forms. But in this case, I've already created a transaction and I'm going to create now an e-signing session with Authentisign. So I will choose the Authentisign option. The advantage of doing it from here is that once you have the document signed electronically, it will come back into the transaction as well as to your email. So in this case, I'm going to create a new signing, and there's an old session in here already, but I'm going to create a new session. I'm going to give it a unique name, and in this case I'm going to call it Robert House Listing. I'll choose sign in line or simulsign. If you have multiple parties, you want to make sure you choose simulsign. That will send it to everybody at one time. Otherwise, with sign in line, it'll go to the first person. They'll have to sign it, and the second person won't get it until the first person has accepted and completed the signing session. You can set expiration dates, although I don't recommend it. This is not an expiration date to the offer. It's an expiration date to the signing session. You can also send reminders to your client. In this case, 4 hours is going to give them, four email reminders letting them know that the signing session is ready for them. I'm going to hit next. Any contacts in that transaction will automatically populate here. So I am going to click on Bob Roberts. He's going to be a signer. Somebody could also be a reviewer, or you can just CC somebody in case they had an attorney or a family member that they wanted to get a copy of it once it was signed. Agents do not need to add themselves as signers. In most cases, in a listing you may, but in a contract you don't want to add yourself. You will automatically get a copy once the transaction is fully signed. It will come to your email. We're going to add Bob Roberts as a contact here, and you can click them up. You can click them open. If you want to add any other information, in this case I had an error on his email address, so I'm going to change that. You can change his role still. You have in-person signing options if you want to sign on an iPad with the client in your presence, and you can make other changes here. So I'm going to save my participant. Now I've got the correct email address. I can add more if I want, but I'm going to move on here to the next step, and that next step is to add the documents that I want to have signed. In this case, I've got a bunch in here, but I'm just going to have them sign the exclusive authorization to sell. I could add my disclosures and everything else if I wanted to. I will just go ahead and add that disclosure just for the fun of it. I'm going to add all the documents I need to have the client sign, and they'll appear here in a second. There they are. You can also upload documents straight from your PC, from Instanet Forms, from DocBox. You can upload it by fax or by email. So there's a lot of different ways to get your documents into the transaction. I'm going to hit next step. Now what we're doing in step 4 is we're preparing the document for signature. Now there are, Authentisign has signature templates, and that's what's happened here, is that it's automatically put the signature and the date in the correct place. And that's very handy that is set up for you. But there's also going to be places that you're going to need to add signature blocks and initial blocks. And in this case, we're going to go down the contract a few steps, and we need to add some initials here. If there were 2 clients, you would choose the one that's highlighted, and you will drag and drop the initial. You'll drag and drop it again, and so on and so on and so on. Now you can also use your annotation tools up here to draw lines and cross throughs and add text if you wanted to actually edit the document in the event that you're doing a counter offer. You have other options down here on the side menu bar. You have signature blocks that you can add, initial blocks, optional initial blocks, today's date, text boxes. So there's a lot of different options here that you can play around with when you're doing this. And I do recommend that you do a signing session on your, that you send to yourself, so you can get a feel of how this works on the client end. So I can scroll through the documents, make sure I have all my signatures. I need to have one other one, initial here on electronic signatures. And if you're going to use electronic signatures, everybody who's going to sign must agree to that in the contract or in the listing. Now you'll see here there's a date stamp added here. If you right click on anything, you can always add a date stamp. The same is true of a signature. There is a date that will be embedded around the final signature and dates, but some people just like to see the date there and make them comfortable, and it's also a good way to verify when a contract was actually ratified. So I've got all my documents ready to go. I can scroll back through here and review them. I can come over here and I can clear and start over. I can exit the wizard, I can save my changes, or I can print and download them. In this case, I'm ready to get this house on the market. I'm going to hit my next step, and that last step is step 5. I can go in and I can verify the signing details, make sure I've got everybody set up properly. I can add more participants. I can edit this participant. I can add a little message to Bob. In this case, thanks for the business. And I can send that to everybody who's involved in the transaction, but I'm just going to save it in this case. And there's a document that I want him to sign, and everything looks good, so I'm going to hit finalize details, and I'm going to send to signers. I have one more opportunity to cancel or to go forward, and I'm going to go forward. So now this is going to be sent to my clients, and I'm going to minimize this screen, and I'm going to open up, excuse the messy desktop, and there's the Authentisign invitation to review the document that I sent to Bob. So Bob's going to open up that signing session. There's an image that will appear here, but this is a web-based email, so you don't see it. So just follow the instructions. Click here to sign, and this is going to create the transaction, the Authentisign session. The client can go in there and they can change their own language, their own signature. They can change fonts, or they can use the default font. They need to create a password and confirm that password, and they need to accept the terms of service for using an electronic session. And my passwords don't match. Alright, so let's try that again. Now I can click on my signature. So it's not going to let you make a mistake. So now we're good to go. I'm going to either exit and sign, or I'm going to confirm and accept. And so now the client has the opportunity here to hit the more options and download what they're going to sign, or they can review it here page by page. If they want to start the signing, they can. If they want to eject it, they can. If they want to exit, they can do it. We hope that they want to start the signing process. So once they hit start signing, you'll see up top it says signing progress 0%. You have 10 items remaining to be clicked. They'll be prompted to click on the first box. As they click on the first box, they'll be prompted to go to the next box. So they have the options here. This is one or the other. They'll choose the one. They're going to accept this. They'll go to the next. They're going to accept. They're going to decline on the optional one over here, and they're going to decline on the optional initial over there. Now they'll just follow the transaction through, clicking every place that they're prompted, and you'll see up top the signing progress is at 70%, and I now have 3 items remaining. I now have 2 items remaining, and now I have no items remaining. So everything has been signed, and you can see Where I did click, it now has an electronic signature with a date and time stamp that you know exactly when this was signed. So the client still has the opportunity to go back and review. They can still reject at this point, or they can exit. We hope they're going to continue. So in this case, they're going to hit done, accept all. And again, they have an opportunity once again to stay in review or to complete the signing. Once they complete the signing, they will get an email back to their email with the signed document. And I will also get an email, and I will pull my email over here. Here's my email from the client. This is my verification that they signed. And the document just came to me, so here we go. My second email, here's a signed copy of the document from Bob Roberts. I'll open the PDF file. There we go. So I can scroll through it, and every place it needed to be signed is signed or initialed. So I now have a copy of this in my email. Let's go back to the client's email. The client now has a copy sent to them. There's the client's copy. And if I go back to Instanet to the transaction, there's now a copy of the signed document in the transaction. So the disclosure here is signed, and then the exclusive authorization to sell, they're now already in Instanet, and I can access those at any point from my smartphone or iPad using DocBox to go. So that's a quick view of Authentisign. I really do recommend that you use this on yourself the first time. Send yourself an electronic signing session, practice between friends before you send it to a client. It's not for use in every situation, but there are certainly cases where this will make ratifying a contract or listing much simpler and easier than having to track people down for signatures or finding fax machines. Thanks again, and have a great day.